The most earth-shattering discovery in the history of prophetic interpretation has just rocked the foundations of reality itself. The Chosen One isn't just getting younger, he's actually reversing time around himself. And absolutely nothing in any ancient prophecy ever warned us this could happen. The Temporal Observation Guild has confirmed what scholars feared most. Our supposed savior is creating expanding bubbles of reverse chronology that are making entire regions age backwards. Flowers return to seeds, rivers flow uphill to their mountain sources, and most terrifyingly, deceased heroes from centuries past are climbing out of their graves as the timeline unravels around them. But here's the detail that will make your blood freeze. Every single attempt to find this phenomenon in the original Prophecies has revealed the same horrifying truth. The texts seem to be rewriting themselves to exclude any mention of temporal manipulation. If you want to understand how our reality is being fundamentally altered by forces that apparently exist outside of prophetic prediction, and discover the forbidden knowledge that the time keepers have been hiding about the true nature of cosmic causality. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like and comment below if you've noticed anything aging backwards in your own area recently. To comprehend the absolute magnitude of what we're witnessing, you need to understand that time manipulation was supposed to be impossible according to every fundamental law of magic and physics known to our civilization. The eternal codex of immutable laws, written by the first cosmic architects when they designed our reality, explicitly states that temporal flow can only move in one direction. The penalty for attempting to reverse time was built into the very fabric of existence: instant annihilation of anything that tried to violate chronological order. Yet somehow our Chosen One is not only surviving this violation, but appears to be thriving as he becomes the epicenter of an ever-expanding temporal anomaly. The initial signs of this impossible phenomenon were subtle enough that even the most experienced time wardens dismissed them as measurement errors. A few flowers in the Chosen One's presence bloomed backwards into buds. Some recently harvested crops returned to their growing state. Milk that had soured sweet became fresh again. But these minor reversals were nothing compared to what happened when the Chosen One's power truly began to manifest. Now entire forests are aging backwards, ancient ruins are rebuilding themselves, and most shockingly, people who died within the last few decades are beginning to show signs of returning to life. But what you're about to discover will completely obliterate everything you thought you knew about the relationship between prophecy and temporal mechanics. Hidden in the deepest vaults of the chronological archives, there exists a collection of documents that were never supposed to be accessible to anyone living in linear time. These texts, known as the paradox prophecies, were apparently written by beings who exist outside normal temporal flow. They describe events not from the perspective of when they will happen, but from the viewpoint of creatures who can observe all moments simultaneously. According to these paradox prophecies, the concept of reversal time is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the Chosen One is actually doing. He's not reversing time in the traditional sense. He's accessing what these trans-temporal beings call the original template of reality. Every moment that has ever existed continues to exist simultaneously in layers of compressed time. The Chosen One is peeling back these layers, allowing older versions of reality to resurface and overlap with the current timeline. And then came the discovery that changed everything we thought we understood about prophecy itself. When the master scribes attempted to verify references to temporal manipulation in the ancient texts, they made a horrifying discovery. The prophecies were changing as they watched. Words that scholars had memorized for decades were shifting. Sentences were rewriting themselves, and entire passages about the Chosen One's abilities were appearing and disappearing like text written in invisible ink that only becomes visible under certain conditions. The implications of this discovery are so staggering that the High Council of Prophetic Interpretation called an emergency session. For the first time in over 800 years, If the prophecies themselves are being altered by the Chosen One's temporal manipulation, then everything we thought we knew about predestination, fate, and cosmic planning could be fundamentally wrong. We might be living in a reality where the future is literally writing and rewriting the past on a continuous basis. Can you imagine the terror that this revelation has unleashed among those whose entire existence is based on the immutability of prophetic text? The keeper of sacred words, an ancient elf who had spent 7 centuries memorizing every syllable of the original prophecies, suffered a complete mental breakdown when he realized that his perfect memory no longer matched what was written in the books. He had studied his entire life, but the most disturbing aspect of this temporal reversal is not what it's doing to objects or even to the dead. It's what it's doing to causality itself. Events are beginning to happen before their causes. Battles are being won by strategies that haven't been planned yet. People are receiving messages from themselves in the future, messages that are causing them to make decisions that create the very circumstances that will allow them to send those messages. The linear progression of cause and effect that forms the foundation of logical existence is breaking down completely in areas affected by the Chosen One's temporal field, according to emergency reports from the Reality Stability Commission. The temporal distortions are spreading faster than anyone initially calculated. What began as a localized phenomenon affecting only a few square kilometers has now expanded to encompass entire kingdoms. Worse still, the rate of expansion is accelerating exponentially. Mathematicians estimate that if this continues, the entire continent could be experiencing temporal reversal within weeks, and the entire world within months. But what the interdimensional monitoring station discovered will make you question whether we're still living in the same reality we were born into. Their instruments detected that our world's temporal reversal is creating ripple effects across parallel dimensions. Alternate versions of our reality are beginning to experience their own chronological anomalies as the temporal distortion bleeds through dimensional barriers. We're not just witnessing the unmaking of our own timeline, we're watching the potential unraveling of the entire multiversal cluster that our dimension belongs to. The truth about what's happening is far more complex and terrifying than anyone initially realized. Research conducted by the Department of Impossible Studies revealed that the Chosen One's temporal manipulation is not random or uncontrolled. There's a pattern to which moments in history are being accessed and restored. The reversions seem to be specifically targeting pivotal moments of cosmic significance, times when the balance between light and darkness was fundamentally altered. Dead heroes from the age of first darkness are returning not as mindless undead, but as living beings with all their memories and abilities intact. Ancient weapons that were destroyed in legendary battles are reconstituting themselves. Lost spells and forgotten magic are becoming available again as the timeline reaches back to periods when such power was commonplace. It's as if the Chosen One is accessing a cosmic arsenal of everything that was ever lost to time. Leave in the comments if you think this temporal manipulation is intentional, or if our Chosen One has lost control of powers he was never meant to possess. But the enemies of light have responded to this temporal chaos in ways that no one anticipated. The Lords of Eternal Shadow, entities that were supposed to be confined to the current timeline, have begun manifesting versions of themselves from different historical periods. The demon armies marching toward our last strongholds now include shadow creatures from every era of darkness that ever existed. We're not just facing the current forces of evil, we're confronting a temporal army composed of every dark moment in history. The strategic implications are beyond comprehension. How do you fight an enemy that can draw reinforcements from the past? How do you plan a defense against forces that might include versions of themselves from your own future? Traditional military thinking becomes completely useless when the battlefield exists across multiple timelines simultaneously. According to intelligence gathered by the Temporal Reconnaissance Division, the Shadow Forces have discovered something that explains their confidence in the face of our Chosen One's impossible power. They've learned that temporal manipulation has a cost that might ultimately destroy the one wielding it. Every moment, the Chosen One pulls from the past, creates what theorists are calling temporal debt, a growing burden of displaced time that eventually must be repaid. The calculations are terrifying in their simplicity. If the Chosen One continues accessing past moments at his current rate, the accumulated temporal debt will eventually require him to sacrifice an equal amount of future time. In practical terms, this means that saving the world by reversing time could ultimately result in the complete elimination of any future beyond the current crisis. Victory achieved through temporal manipulation might literally erase tomorrow from existence. But here's where the situation becomes even more nightmarish. The Department of Chronological Ethics has determined that the temporal debt isn't just the Chosen One's responsibility. It belongs to our entire reality. Every person, every creature, every object that has been affected by the temporal reversions now carries a portion of this cosmic debt. If the timeline collapses under the weight of these temporal borrowings, it won't just be the Chosen One who pays the price. It will be everyone and everything in our dimension. The most recent manifestations of temporal reversal have pushed the crisis beyond anything that existing theoretical frameworks can explain. Yesterday, an entire city that was destroyed by dragons 3 centuries ago reformed itself, complete with all its original inhabitants who awoke believing no time had passed since their original deaths. These temporally restored people possess all their original memories and abilities, but they also carry knowledge of events that happened after their original demise, creating conscious beings who simultaneously exist in multiple time periods. But what happened during the Great Temporal Convergence will leave you absolutely speechless. When representatives from different time periods gathered to discuss the crisis, they discovered that each group had different versions of the same prophecies. The texts that people from the past remember differ significantly from what people in the present have recorded. Most disturbing of all, individuals restored from the future carry prophecies that describe events that haven't happened yet in our current timeline. According to these future prophecies, the temporal manipulation we're witnessing is not the end result of the Chosen One's power, it's the preparation phase. The real demonstration of his abilities will come when he begins manipulating not just the past, but probability itself. The future texts describe a Chosen One who doesn't just reverse time, but who can access alternate timelines where different choices were made, different battles were won, different outcomes were achieved. The implications of this revelation are so vast, they threaten to overwhelm rational comprehension. If the Chosen One can access alternate timelines where the forces of light achieved different victories, he could potentially merge the best outcomes from multiple realities into a single optimized timeline. But the same power could be used to access timelines where darkness achieved ultimate victory, potentially contaminating our reality with the worst possible outcomes from infinite alternative fates. Emergency sessions with the Council of Probability Majors have revealed that timeline manipulation on this scale would require the Chosen One to exist simultaneously across infinite realities. He would need to become not just a temporal anomaly, but a multiversal intersection point, a conscious entity that serves as a living bridge between all possible versions of existence. The transformation this would require goes far beyond anything that could be called human or even divine, but the price of such transformation appears to be the complete dissolution of individual identity across infinite possibilities. To become a multiversal intersection, the Chosen One would need to surrender any sense of singular self, instead becoming a collective consciousness composed of every possible version of himself across all realities. He would possess infinite knowledge and unlimited power, but at the cost of losing any coherent sense of personal Existence. The psychological monitoring reports from the chosen ones. Personal guards paint a picture of someone who is already beginning to experience this identity dissolution. He speaks about conversations with versions of himself from timelines where he made different choices. He references knowledge gained from realities where he lived different lives. Most disturbingly, he sometimes refers to himself in the plural, as if multiple versions of his consciousness are already beginning to merge. According to the Department of Multiversal Psychology, this type of identity fragmentation typically precedes either transcendence to a higher form of existence or complete psychological collapse into irreversible madness. There appears to be no middle ground when consciousness attempts to exist across multiple realities simultaneously. Either the chosen one will successfully evolve into a multiversal entity capable of optimizing all possible timelines, or he will fragment completely, leaving behind only a broken mind, trapped between infinite incompatible realities, but what the hidden archives of temporal catastrophes revealed will make you question everything you thought you knew about the relationship between prophecy, time, and free will, buried in records so classified that acknowledging their existence was once punishable by temporal exile. Researchers discovered documentation of previous attempts at timeline manipulation by chosen champions. Throughout cosmic history, the records describe heroes who successfully mastered temporal reversal and used it to save their realities from destruction. But they also document cases where timeline manipulation created cascading paradoxes that eventually consumed entire multiversal clusters. Most chilling of all, they reference scenarios where successful timeline optimization resulted in realities so perfect they became static, frozen in idealized states that eliminated the possibility of growth, change, or evolution. The documentation suggests that timeline manipulation is not just dangerous to the individual wielding it. It's potentially catastrophic to the very concept of existence itself. Realities that achieve perfect optimization through temporal manipulation tend to become isolated from the broader multiversal community, existing as pristine but sterile pockets of unchanging perfection. The price of eliminating all possibility of failure or suffering appears to be the elimination of all possibility of genuine life and growth. Intelligence reports indicate that the forces of darkness understand these risks and are deliberately trying to push the chosen one toward the most catastrophic possible uses of his temporal abilities. They're not trying to stop his timeline manipulation. They're trying to corrupt it, encouraging him to make changes that will ultimately result in paradoxical collapse or static perfection. Either outcome would serve the purposes of eternal darkness by eliminating the dynamic balance between light and shadow that allows conscious existence to flourish. The final phase of the temporal crisis is approaching with terrifying inevitability. Calculations by the Department of Chronological Mathematics indicate that the chosen one will reach the critical threshold, the point where he must choose between stabilizing the current timeline or attempting full multiversal optimization in exactly 6 days. The assembled forces of darkness will reach our final strongholds in 4 days, creating a scenario where the ultimate battle for existence will be fought in a reality where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. But what the sacred observatory of infinite possibilities discovered will change everything you thought you knew about the true nature of this cosmic crisis. Their instruments detected that our chosen one's temporal manipulation is synchronized with similar events occurring throughout the entire multiversal complex. Every reality that contains a version of our cosmic drama is experiencing identical temporal anomalies at precisely the same moment across infinite dimensions. This is not just our chosen one learning to manipulate time. It's a coordinated multiversal event where every possible version of our cosmic story is simultaneously reaching the same critical juncture. Something is orchestrating a reality-wide transformation that will either elevate all existence to a higher level of cosmic order or collapse the entire multiversal structure into chronological chaos. The text from the civilization of always, a culture that exists outside normal temporal flow, describe this phenomenon as the great temporal choosing, a moment that occurs once in cosmic history when all realities must decide whether to remain bound by linear time or evolve into something that transcends chronological limitations. According to their records, the success or failure of this choice determines not just the fate of individual universes, but the fundamental nature of existence itself for all time. The most terrifying aspect of this revelation is that the choice cannot be made by the chosen ones alone. The temporal manipulation they're experiencing is preparing all realities for a collective decision that must be made by every conscious being simultaneously. The expanding fields of temporal reversal are not just manifestations of power, they're preparation zones, areas where normal consciousness is being conditioned to exist outside linear time so that everyone can participate in the great temporal choosing. But here's the ultimate truth that will leave you staring into the abyss of infinite possibility. Success in the great temporal choosing doesn't mean defeating the forces of darkness or even saving our current reality. Success means evolving beyond the need for conflict between light and shadow entirely, transcending to a level of existence where such dualities become irrelevant. The battle we thought we were fighting may actually be the final test before a transformation so complete that the very concepts of heroism, prophecy, and destiny become obsolete. The countdown to cosmic transformation has begun, and the temporal reversions around our chosen one are just the beginning of changes so fundamental they will redefine what it means to exist. Subscribe to the channel to follow this unprecedented crisis as it unfolds, and leave your like if this investigation into impossible timeline manipulation has opened your mind to possibilities you never imagined. Comment with your theory about whether our reality should choose evolution beyond time or fight to preserve the linear existence we've always known. Everything that was, is, and could be hangs in the balance as our chosen one prepares to make a choice that will echo across eternity. The very nature of time itself awaits his decision, and in that choice, the destiny of infinite realities will be written, rewritten, or unwritten forever.